I love boba tea so much. It's 1,000 times better than Starbucks. First of all, there's way more kinds of drinks to get, and literally dozens of flavors to choose from. I can get milk slush one day, then milk tea the next, or I can opt for matcha, or any number of flavors that Starbucks wouldn't have. However, my favorite part has always been the chewy tapioca bubble balls. However, this all changed very recently. It all started on my way to my usual boba spot. That's a 5-minute walk from my house. I would go there every day, and it was the only place I could ever say I was a regular at. I knew the barista that worked there, but on this day, I didn't see any of the usual staff. Instead, it was some man behind the register, 20s, wore glasses, face plagued with acne, and his braces were holding together rotting yellow teeth as he smiled. He looked so gross and smelled like he hadn't showered in weeks. So to see him standing behind the counter where people order drinks was baffling to me. At the time, it should have been the lunch rush with people sitting at every table and a line out the door, but I was literally the only customer in there. What I should have done was follow the lead of everybody else who must have walked in, saw that creep working, and walked right the hell out. For some stupid reason though, I decided to get a drink anyway. I went to the counter and started looking up at the menu. As I was looking at the menu, the guy kept giggling and laughing like a little creep. He was doing it so much the entire time that I started to think he had that uncontrollable laughing condition like the new Joker. More likely, I figured he just idolized that Joker so much that he was trying to emulate him like all the other incels. It was really distracting and unsettling, but I eventually made my choice.
Have you decided what you'd like to get?
Yeah. I'll get a honeydew milk tea with extra boba, please.
Oh gosh, extra. Is that okay?
Yes, that should be fine.
And what flavor was that again?
Honeydew.
Oh, well, are you sure you wouldn't like the coffee flavor?
No, I'm pretty sure I want honeydew. Thanks.
What about the cocoa bean add-ins?
Huh? What even is that?
It's a personal special. It takes a whole day to make. Sometimes faster if I drink an extra cup of coffee.
No thanks. I'm good on that.
Are you sure? It's a real blast of flavor.
Just give me my goddamn honeydew flavor, alright?
Okay. Allow me to get some tapioca pearls for you.
Sure.
Once I paid without tipping him, of course, I sat down and waited a few minutes while he disappeared into the back room to make my drink. It took him longer than the regular baristas, and they would usually do it in front for me, but I was fine with not having to look at him. Finally, he came out and handed me my drink, still giggling like a total weirdo. I immediately noticed the cup looked awful, like it had expired ingredients or something, but I decided I would just take it and get out of there. Just as I was turning to leave though, I noticed that there was a full container of boba right there on the counter. I was even more suspicious of him then, but I didn't want to sit there and press him about it. I just left the shop and started walking back home. I felt so excited to have my drink after having to deal with that creep. So I stabbed the straw through the plastic film right away. Then I put the straw up to my lips and started to drink it. I wasn't even after the taste. I just wanted to chew on those delicious little tapioca pearls. But the second I bit into one, I knew it was horribly wrong. The mushy, gritty texture of it, then the repulsive, putrid taste that filled my mouth made me drop my cup and instantly puke. I was eating globs of shit. I collapsed, choking and puking over and over again. I struggled to get back on my feet, but running home was the only other thing I could try to focus on. I was vomiting over my shoulder the entire way home. When I finally got there, I begged my family for help. I could hardly get any words out, but they finally helped me clean out my mouth as best as we possibly could. Once I could finally compose myself and tell my family what happened, we called the cops and had them arrest that creep who took a shit in my boba. Ever since then, I've been traumatized by the mere thought of eating boba. It used to be my favorite thing in the whole world, but now it makes me sick to my stomach just talking about it. With therapy, hopefully I can recover, but to this day, it's like I still can't get the taste of shit out of my mouth. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a 19-year-old barista who was now in custody and facing charges after he defecated in a boba. The 19-year-old barista is now facing charges after questioning. The suspect allegedly told police that he served a boba tea with feces because he was quote-unquote bored. He is now facing jail time, being charged with tampering with food and reckless endangerment. At nearly 80 years of age, some might think I've seen it all. I was married, widowed, and had 4 children. They all grew up and left home eventually, except for one, Chris. Chris was a transgender, and she never even entertained the idea of living on her own. She just mooched off me and my husband all her life, and when her father died, I was left to support her entirely by myself. Unfortunately, as the years have passed, Chris has just gone farther and farther off the deep end. Instead of going to college, she started making comics based off her favorite video game character, Sonic the Hedgehog. I never understood any of it. There was something very odd about the art. Chris would draw these creatures interbreeding with others, spawning disturbing mutants. Despite her passion for it, her drawing ability never progressed beyond that of the average kindergartner. She claims to be famous on the internet for her work, but I've never seen her bring a dime of actual income into this house. If she was making any money, it's being spent on those stupid Sonic the Hedgehog toys. Over the years, it's only gotten worse. As I've become increasingly less mobile, I'm too weak to take care of the house, and it's turned into a nightmare. Entire rooms have filled with garbage I physically can't get rid of. Roaches, rats, mice, and mold grow and crawl over every surface. There's so much rotting food and feces everywhere that the air has gone from having a putrid stench to being a biohazard to breathe in. For the past year, it's been making me so sick that I need to have an oxygen tank with me at all times. Even with the oxygen mask though, I'm too weak to do much more than lay in bed all the time, unless I had to get up to use the bathroom. All the while, Chris runs around the house, spouting nonsense about these made-up fantasy characters, dressing up as them, and recently, developing the most sickening habit that I won't forget until the day I die.
Chris, is that you?
I want to play with you, Mommy.
Huh?
Would you rather be Sonic or do you want to be Rose?
I don't know what any of that crap means. Just leave me alone. Come on, where is that damn thing?
Looking for this, Mommy? Yeah, I took about 2 hours ago. You slept for a lot longer than I thought you would. Are you sure you really need it?
You bastard! Give that back to me!
Only if you agree to play with me.
Piss off, Chris!
That doesn't sound too good, Mommy.
Screw you!
Go to sleep, Mommy. I'll take care of everything there. Wakey, wakey. There she is. As you can see there, I'm so glad you're awake. Now we can play together. As you can see, I decided to be Sonic this time. So you get to be Rose. Look!
What did you do to me, Chris? You took off my clothes?
Careful, Mom. Don't overdo it. I figured you'd try to run there, so I took some precautions to keep you from accidentally hurting yourself.
Let me out! Untie me this instant!
I think you're too slow. You gotta go fast.
Hey, give me that! I need to breathe, asshole!
I'll show you what true speed really is.
Please! I can't breathe! Please! Please! Don't, Chris!
That was the first time that Chris made me play with her, but it wasn't the last. I am now living the last years of my life in the worst nightmare I could ever imagine. I don't know what to do. I can't take care of myself if Chris leaves, but I also can't bear the thought of my children knowing what their sibling is doing to their mother. All I know is I can't go on like this for much longer. This story was inspired by an eerie Sonic the Hedgehog case that took the internet by storm a few years ago due to its shocking details. It involved a person named Chris Chan, a 42-year-old American transgender woman who was best known for creating the Sonic series, Sonic Chew, a fusion of Sonic the Hedgehog and Pikachu, but has since become a polarizing figure due to various controversies. In August 2021, Chan was arrested and charged with incest after admitting to having an intimate relationship with her 79-year-old mother, who suffers from dementia. The arrest was prompted by a leaked Discord conversation in which she admitted to the disturbing ordeal. Following the arrest, her attorney stated that many of her provocative statements stemmed from a deep-seated need for attention, which is partly driven by her mental health issues. Chan spent nearly 2 years in jail before being released in March of 2023. The case was dismissed after a deferred disposition citing her autism diagnosis. She currently resides in a house in Big Island, Virginia. This happened years ago when I used to live with my mom. I was an only child to a single mother. My mom was always either working or sleeping, so I barely saw her. That meant I had to take care of myself most of the time. Aside from that, I left the house whenever I felt like it, and if I skipped school, I was usually with my friend Leo ding-dong ditching, stealing from convenience stores, or chilling at this abandoned house not too far away from the school. The house was just a dusty, decaying place that had boarded up windows, and happened to be a great place for us to hang out at. One day, Leo and I skipped school. That's when he took out some candles along with an Ouija board, and said he wanted us to play with it. Neither of us even bothered to read the instructions before we started messing around with it like we'd seen in the movies. All we did was ask it some stupid questions. I remember jokingly asking it if Leo's sister was going to Haktua me off, and it said yes. I was sure that would cause Leo to get fed up with the whole Ouija board gimmick, but he didn't seem fazed at all. I guess he already knew his sister was for the streets, but more so, I realized he was genuinely interested in the Ouija board. I noticed he never threw the Ouija board out either. He just kept it in the abandoned house for us to use next time around. One night, I was feeling lazy, so I never met up with Leo. I had been playing video games for hours, almost until 3 in the morning. And that's when I got a call from him. I ignored it, as well as the next few calls. I didn't want whatever he was planning. I only gave in when he FaceTimed me, not wanting to get on his bad side. That's when he said he was at the abandoned house, and that he wanted me to come play the Ouija board with him. He wanted to see what it would be like to use it at night. I told him there was no way I was leaving the house because I was already getting ready for bed. Then I ended the call. I then shut my TV off and went to sleep. Little did I know, I didn't have a choice.
What the hell are you doing in my room? How'd you even get in?
Shut up! Just get dressed, we're going. Where? To the house, idiot!
Now? But it's the middle of the night.
No shit! It's the perfect time to break out the Ouija board. Now get out of bed, asshole. I'm not leaving until you come with me.
God damn it, just stop shining that damn light in my eyes.
Oh, you mean this one?
God damn it, I stepped on a dead rat.
I told you to be careful, dude. Now come on!
I hate coming here at night. gives me the creeps.
Quit bitching! I've got it set up in here.
This is ridiculous, man.
Just sit down! Come on, let's just get this over with.
All right.
Now, would you like to ask the first question?
Fine, I guess. Oh, spirits, why am I here?
L E O Leo! Ha! It knows you're here for me.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It?
Quiet! It's my turn.
Whoa. Why do you have that?
Shh! Spirits! Should I kill the non-believer sitting across from me? What?
Why the hell would you ask stupid shit like that?
It said yes.
Leo? Leo, stop! Stop!
I ran all the way home and woke my mother up to tell her what had happened. She called 911, and I went to the hospital while the cops went after Leo. They found him still in the abandoned house, clutching the knife and chanting over the bloody Ouija board like a psycho. Since then, Leo's been spending some time in the psych ward. Nobody has any idea when or if he'll ever be out. I still can't believe what that thing did to him. I keep having nightmares reliving that night. Needless to say, we aren't friends anymore, and I haven't touched an Ouija board since. This story was inspired by a downright creepy Ouija board incident that happened in 2012. A teenage male from Weslaco, Texas, stabbed his longtime friend in the abdomen after playing with an Ouija board. The friend miraculously survived after a few harrowing days in intensive care. When asked why he did it, the teen said, "The Ouija board made me do it." At the time, Weslaco police spokesman JP Rodriguez said he actually believed what the Ouija board advised him to do. The teen suspect, whose name was not released, pled insanity. I work at a boba shop. I work the closing shift from 3 p.m. to midnight. The place gets busy for a few hours after 5 p.m. on weekdays and stays busy all day on weekends. Customers come in many shapes and sizes, from students to young and grown, couples on cheap dates, influencers filming trendy little videos, all the way to freaks who are either addicted to the flavors of milk tea or who are just after the boba balls. Lately though, the place has been dead as hell, and it's entirely thanks to the summer. The nearby schools are closed, so students have no reason to come around here, and since lots of people are trying to slim down, they are cutting back on sugary drinks. My boss actually laid a bunch of people off here since there's less business, but kept me around since I've worked here for longer than the other staff. Once the opener leaves after I get there, I'm literally the only person working. To kill time, I tried to find whatever little chores and tasks to do. However, one night, just as I was about to close the shop, I was met with the creepiest sight ever. I looked up from the register and saw a gaunt, freakish-looking woman standing right outside the door, staring at me through the glass. She was smiling as much as her mouth could manage, yet her eyes were dead. It was like Momo had come to visit the shop, daring me to make her a drink. Not wanting to anger her by lying or locking the door in her face, I waved her in, saying,
We're still open.
She opened the door and walked through, slowly approaching the counter. Then she gave me her order, while maintaining that lip-splitting smile.
Give me milk tea with a lot of boba.
Something in the way she spoke gave me chills. She was adamant that I gave her the most boba possible, but I didn't understand just how much that meant to her. I went back and made her drink, filling her emotionless eyes watching me the entire time. When I finished and handed her the cup, nothing could have prepared me for her reaction.
Hi, here you go. Is everything okay with it?
No! More boba! I want more boba!
Okay. You can have more.
Get back there and make me another drink!
My hands were shaking as I started making her second drink. I grabbed a cup and threw a huge scoop of boba in it. The woman kept screaming for more, so I put in another scoop, then another, but it was never enough.
More! Give me more!
Eventually, the cup was full all the way to the top, but it was still too little. I had to push down and press the pearls together to make more room. The cup was filled to capacity, not leaving any room for ice or any ounce of liquid. I then sealed the cup and handed it to her, having no idea what she would do next. I watched in disbelief as she stabbed through the film with her fingers, ripped it off completely, and then held the cup upside down over her gaping mouth. First, a few clumps of pearls from the last scoop came out. Then a literal brick of tapioca slid out of the cup and plopped into her mouth. She stood there for a few seconds chewing on it, but then eventually swallowed it whole. She then dropped the empty cup on the floor and left, leaving me to clean up the insane mess she made. I was so afraid after I closed that, I ordered an Uber home instead of taking the bus. At the end of my next shift, the same thing happened again. She returned at the last minute, coming in every single night, always requesting for more boba, and each time, I gave her what she wanted, just to avoid problems. Then, everything changed one Sunday night. She didn't show up this time, so I was finally able to lock up and flip the sign to closed, then started cleaning up. Then out of nowhere, she came back. I kept telling her we were closed, but she wouldn't listen. That's when she started banging on the glass. Before I knew it, she bashed it in, sending shards of glass everywhere. She came at me, so I ran behind the counter. She then reached over and grabbed the containers of boba from the workstation, then started devouring it like a vile animal. I was cowering, feeling like I was hiding from a zombie eating a corpse. Then out of nowhere, I heard her collapse. I looked over, and she was on the floor not moving. I immediately called 911, and the cops came a few minutes later. An ambulance ended up taking her to the hospital. It was later revealed that she was such an insane boba addict that her entire digestive system was blocked up with tapioca pearls. Our regulars sometimes complain that the boba makes them constipated, but this woman was on a whole other level. I hope that woman never comes back. If I ever see her face again, I think I'll lose it. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding a young female named Zhu Li, who was treated at a hospital after consuming too much of the popular sweet drink, also known as pearl milk tea or boba tea. The drink, originally from Taiwan, typically contains dozens of starchy pearl-like tapioca balls, which are notoriously difficult to digest. The constipated teen was taken to the hospital after complaining of severe stomach pain and told the doctor she hadn't been able to poo for 5 days. Dr. Zhang Lui ordered scans of the girl's stomach, which revealed vast quantities of undigested tapioca pearls, bulging up her entire digestive system. The medic estimated there had to be hundreds of the starchy spheres, which are the key ingredient to the famous boba drink. The girl, who only admitted to having 1 cup of the boba tea recently, was prescribed with laxatives to help flush them out. Dr. Zhang said she must have been hiding the true number of pearl milk tea she had. So many undigested tapioca balls can't all be from just 1 cup. She must have had quite a few over a short period. A chief of the hospital's emergency department also chimed in saying, "Bubble tea pearls are made using tapioca, which is already not easy to digest. Some companies add thickness such as gelatin to make the balls more al dente. Drinking too much bubble tea can easily lead to gastrointestinal dysfunction." I was married to Paul for several years. He was my second husband, far better than my first. He was loyal and also had a kid of his own, which was his 20-year-old daughter Sarah. I moved into his house, and the 3 of us lived together quite happily, and even had a dog named Arlo. Everything was great, but that all changed one night when the 3 of us went to see a movie. We saw a cheesy horror flick about an Ouija board. It was scary, but I didn't think it was that good. Paul, however, was oddly enamored by the concept. All I knew is that a few days later, Paul came home with an Ouija board. That evening, me and Sarah entertained Paul's fixation on the Ouija board and held a phony seance. Needless to say, nothing really happened, and Sarah and I never thought twice about getting the board out again. However, the same couldn't be said for Paul. He tried to hide it, but I could tell he was getting obsessed. He would crawl out of bed in the middle of the night. Then I'd find him in the dining room alone with the Ouija board, mumbling and asking it questions. Whenever I asked him about it later, he always denied ever doing anything with it. I was too scared to confront him in the act, as I didn't know how he would react if I interrupted him. And ever since Paul started messing with that board, weird creepy shit started happening in the house. I couldn't tell if I was getting in my own head, but even when I was the only person in the house, I no longer felt alone. Then, one morning, things took a disturbing turn for the worse. Our dog Arlo suddenly went missing. Paul said he must have ran away, but that didn't feel like something Arlo would ever do. We went looking for him all day, calling animal shelters and posting on Facebook to see if anyone had found him, but we didn't have any luck. That night, the pressure that had been building between Paul and I finally blew up in our faces.
God, I can't do this anymore. We've been looking for hours.
What? There's still daylight left. Are you just gonna give up? I knew you didn't care about Arlo. You let him out, didn't you?
I did not. I love him just as much as you do. I'm just tired.
I bet you were sick of taking care of him, so you pawned him off to someone else. How much money did you get for my dog, huh?
Shut up! I didn't sell him. Maybe it had something to do with you using that damn Ouija board. That's right. I've seen you up all night summoning evil shit into the house.
You've been spying on me? You bitch!
After our fight, Paul took the Ouija board and locked himself in the bedroom, leaving me to sleep on the couch. Luckily, Sarah slept in the living room with me. I think with everything that was happening, she didn't feel safe enough to sleep alone either. It stormed and poured all night. Then in the morning, we went outside to find the rainwater had flooded the street in front of our house. Apparently, one of the drains had gotten clogged, but when workers from the city showed up to clear it, they found something that still sends chills down my spine. They found Arlo's dead body in there. It didn't take long to connect it back to Paul. He said the spirits from the Ouija board told him he had to take the dog out the night before. Then he hid the body in the storm drain. Paul was arrested and went to jail. Afterwards, I felt sick to my stomach. I wanted to get rid of that goddamn Ouija board. It took a few weeks, but eventually, the curiosity got the better of us. Sarah and I took out and held the same kind of seance as before. We asked it questions about Paul and Arlo, but nothing made sense until we asked it about ourselves and what we should do in this situation. The board's answer was very simple. D-I-E. Naturally, we felt the most logical response would be to burn the demonic piece of junk to ash, so we prepared up the fireplace, doused it in lighter fluid, and set it ablaze among the pile of firewood. Sarah and I were still sleeping in the living room then, so we turned in for the night as we watched the board slowly burn. Sometime later, I woke up to the smell of smoke. That's when I opened my eyes, only to find that Sarah and I were both standing up in front of the fireplace, staring at the Ouija board, while the entire house was burning down around us. We both screamed at each other in terror. It was the last and only thing we were able to do before we passed out from the smoke. Later on, I woke up in the hospital. We both miraculously survived, but we had lost our house and everything in it. Not only that, but the police didn't believe us, and now they're charging us with arson. I don't know what kind of black magic that infernal board is imbued with, but it destroyed my entire family. This is downright one of the most disturbing Ouija board stories on the internet today. This incident allegedly happened in 2014, when Paul Carroll was trying to summon the dead using an Ouija board. However, in the aftermath of playing the game, he believed he accidentally put an evil spirit into the family dog. As a result from this, Carroll then took out the dog and dumped its remains in an outside drain, resulting in a backup. When workers were brought in to address the issue, they discovered the dog's body, and an investigation led back to Carroll, who pleaded guilty. A week later, the Ouija board apparently told Carol's wife and stepdaughter that they were going to die, concluding it was preordained. They allegedly got possessed and set their house ablaze. Both survived, but they were later arrested and convicted on arson charges.
I had just started dating this girl. She was a bit of an adrenaline junkie, so she suggested we have a date at Six Flags one summer day. For the record, I've never liked theme parks, fairs, carnivals, or anything of that sort. They've always terrified me. Everything just goes way too fast and way too high. I tried to convince her to pick someplace else, but she was set on Six Flags. So I drove us there and bought the tickets. At first, we went on all the rides meant for kids, which were the only semi-sensible creations in the whole park. Then treated my date to lunch. My date was done with what she called the appetizer rides and was ready to start going on the big ones. I knew it was useless trying to talk her out of it, but I still gave it my best shot. This only made her upset with me though, so I caved. Instead of starting small and working our way up, my date now wanted to go straight to the biggest, tallest, fastest ride in the entire park. Apparently, so did everyone else. The line was almost 2 hours long, dragging out the nerve-wracking wait to an eternity. My anxiety at the start was already through the roof, but with every single step, it just got worse and worse. When we got to the front of the line, almost every cell in my body was telling me to back out, except for a certain cluster that was dragging me along and forcing me to do whatever this crazy woman wanted. We went to the back of the coaster, but I told my date to sit in the cart in front of me. She was a little confused, but I didn't want to tell her it was in case I threw up in the middle of the ride, so I wouldn't throw up on her or anyone else. A few seconds later, a park employee started coming around and checking the restraints, and I knew it was too late to back out now.
Excuse me, sir? I don't think my bar went all the way down. Sir? Sir?
Please keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times. Thank you.
Oh, shit. God damn it, I hate this so much. Please just let me live.
Isn't this so much fun?
Yeah, this is so much.
Woo!
I think I'm gonna throw up. Huh? What the hell? Stop the ride! Stop the ride!
Why? What's wrong?
Look at this shit! It's broken!
Why? What's wrong?
What the hell am I supposed to do?
I don't know. Just try to hold on tight.
Hold on, bitch! I'm gonna die!
You don't have to be mean.
Hey, wait a second, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you that, I'm just scared. Oh shit, oh shit! Help! Somebody help me! Ah! Help! Somebody help me! Ah! Ah! Help! Somebody help me! Ah! Help! Somebody help me! Ah! Ah! No!
I was unconscious for several days, but out of spite to all the death traps that people call roller coasters, I miraculously survived. I sustained severe injuries that took years to recover from, and after the whole ordeal, that bitch who made me get on the ride left me, and I haven't heard from her since. I ended up suing the park and won with an open and shut case, but if I could go back in time and choose between winning $3 million in a lawsuit and not plummeting to almost certain death, I know that I'd rather not live through that again. This story was inspired by a horrific Six Flags incident that happened on May 16 of 1999. 37-year-old Michael Dalweeby from Olean, New York, was unable to close his lap bar properly and was ejected, falling approximately 9 feet from the ride of the steel roller coaster. as the ride went over a camelback hill, resulting in him suffering serious injuries. The victim sued the park and the ride manufacturer for negligence and was awarded $2.85 million following a court case.
I had a girlfriend in my 20s. Everyone called her Bunny. As we got older, a lot of our friends started disappearing from our lives, except for this one couple named Ivan and Jess. They usually hosted each other at respective places, but on this one night, we had them over because it was my birthday. We all had some drinks, did the whole birthday thing with singing and cake. Then it was time to open the gifts. Bunny's gift to me was a pair of promise rings, but unfortunately, that ended up being overshadowed by the gift that our new friends brought. It was an Ouija board. As soon as I tore off the wrapping paper and realized what I was holding, it felt like I'd been given a box of radioactive waste. Suddenly, all three of them were insisting that we play with it that night. I tried to explain how these things weren't meant to be played with, but it just backfired and made them even more interested in it. If it weren't for Bunny asking me to, I would never have touched the thing. We turned off all the lights in the house and gathered around the Ouija board at the dining table. Seeing only by candlelight, we put our hands together on the planchette. Then Bunny asked the first question. She asked the board to tell us what to do. Then, it suddenly started moving. My stomach filled with dread as the planchette slid back and forth across the board, as if an unseen hand was guiding us. When it came to the rest, the board had spelled the word carnival. A moment later, someone blurted out the question,
"Where?"
Without missing a beat, the thing began to move again, spelling out Virginia, which was only 3 states away from us. But it was just a body in the mix as the questions kept flying, and the answers kept getting worse and worse. Bunny asked where we would get the money to make the trip. The board told us to rob and kill. Who? A biker. When? Tonight? Or what? Death. As the last question was asked and answered, I made a panicked attempt to talk everyone back to their senses, but by then, it was too late.
Guys, we have to stop. This is crazy. Dude, we all heard what it said. We have to do it. What? Take out a random stranger and run away to some carnival in Virginia? We're not murderers. Damn it, if we don't kill for it, then it will kill us. Don't you get it? No, this is all wrong. I need to get out of here.
Babe, wait.
Bunny, no.
Didn't you say we'd see the world together? Maybe this is how we do it.
I said we'd leave when you turned 18. Not now.
Stop being such a wimp and grow some hair on your nuts. You act like a minor.
I don't know. It's just, this is really serious stuff, guys.
Don't worry about it. We're all gonna do it together. We got this. Okay, babe?
In the end, I could never say no to her. We decided to camp out on the side of a remote stretch of road not too far from a grimy biker bar. Then we waited for a straggler, the last drunk leaving the parking lot after trying to sober up. As we saw the lone biker swerving down the road, we got out of the car and started waving our hands in the middle of the road. The guy took the bait and stopped for us, asking if we needed help with our car. Before anyone even pretended to answer, we rushed him. Ivan and I tackled him off of his bike. Then the girls duct taped his mouth shut as we held him down. We taped his arms and legs together. Then we stuffed him in the trunk of the car. We dragged his motorcycle into a ditch, hoping people would think he crashed, and got lost in the woods. Then we drove for almost an hour until we found a good place to park the car and take him into the woods where nobody would see us. We carried him until we discovered a deep hidden lake. We laid him on the shore, took everything he had, and then it was time. All 4 of us gripped the knife together, like how we did the planchette for the Ouija board. Then we drove it down into his heart. We dumped his body in the water, never expecting anyone to find him until we were long gone. We drove back to our friend's house in silence. Then I took Bunny home. Minute by minute, the reality of what we had done set in. By morning, all of us were petrified. Days went by. Nobody talked to each other. Nobody made plans to run away. It was only a matter of time before the cops finally came knocking. By then, we were all sick with panic and regret. None of us could keep our story straight. Once the cops told us they tracked our cell phones and connected their location to the dead bikers, we all started turning on each other, trying to throw one another under the bus to save ourselves, but it didn't work. We were all convicted for that man's untimely demise in the end. If it hadn't been for the Ouija board, Bunny and I might have had the fairy tale ending we dreamed of, but instead, we got stuck with the nightmare. This story was inspired by a horrific Ouija board incident that happened in 1983. A young woman named Bunny Dixon told her 25-year-old boyfriend, Anthony Hall, and another young couple that the four of them had been instructed by an Ouija board to leave their home in Florida and join a carnival in Virginia, and to also get the money to fund their trip by robbing and taking out a motorist, which they did. The victim was 25-year-old Knock Van Dang. Ultimately, the two couples turned against each other, which led to their arrest. All four were tried and convicted for their involvement in the slaying.
I woke up feeling like I had the worst hangover ever, with no idea where the hell I was. It looked like my bedroom, but I was so disoriented that I couldn't recognize it. I could barely see anything either, and the floor I was lying on felt cold as hell, like metal. Trying to make sense of things, I looked around, thinking I was alone at first. But that is until I saw someone, or something, standing from a distance watching me in the dark. I called out to them, causing them to start moving. Hey, who are you? What the hell is going on right now? Whatever this person was just stood there in one spot. But then I realized we were nothing alike, because they weren't even human. They were a hedgehog, and not just any hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog. I couldn't believe my eyes. This had to be a dream, or I'd gone completely insane. Either way, I became less afraid of it, because I was the biggest fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Finally getting to my feet, the first thing I did was slowly walk over to it. I was excited, but at the same time shitting bricks, as I couldn't comprehend if this was real life or my imagination. When I stood in front of him, he didn't quite look like the Sonic I grew up with. He looked more deranged and eerie, like he was from an entirely different game than what I grew up playing. Again, he just stood still, not moving at all. All he did was smile at me menacingly with his creepy-ass teeth and scan me up and down with his nightmarish eyes. It was like someone knocked me unconscious and put a Sonic the Hedgehog animatronic in my room, trying to torment me for their sick pleasure. I figured I had enough, so that's when I slowly raised my finger up towards Sonic's chest. I then tapped on it. He didn't move or say anything.
What the hell?
Out of nowhere, Sonic extended his arms and pressed his hands against my shoulders. That's when I said, "Hey, Sonic. Big fan. You have quite the grip, Sonic. Do you have any idea what's going on right now?" Every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. Yeah, you're definitely right about that, Sonic. If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Well, you know I'm not your enemy, right?
I have to ask you something.
Yeah? What is it?
Do you think you're faster than me?
Fast? Well, no. Nobody's faster than you, Sonic.
Do you want to find out?
I guess? Sure.
I'll show you what true speed really is.
Okay. How are you gonna show me how fast you are, Sonic?
Suddenly, more Sonic the Hedgehog characters appeared around me. As I took everything in, Sonic started explaining to me what was about to happen. I'll tell you what, we can race, but I have a much better idea.
What is it?
I want you to run away from me as fast as you can.
Like hide and seek? Or
No, I mean as far away from me as possible.
Like leave my house?
Exactly. The farther you are from me, the safer you'll be. Let me explain. I want you to run and hide from me, because if I get you, I'll rip your head off.
What?
I want you to race for your life!
No! Please don't kill me!
Don't worry, you get a head start, and then maybe I'll get your head!
Oh shit! What the hell did I get myself into? This can't be real. It can't
10,
be!
9, 8, 7, gotta go fast! 6, 5, 4, you're too slow! 3, 2, 1, ready or not, here I come!
What the hell? Where is he? Was I just hallucinating?
I'm here!
Ah! Get the hell away from me! Somebody help me! Get this hedgehog away from me and back in the game! Help! Ah! What the hell is going on?
Gotta go fast, otherwise your food will run away!
I went to Six Flags with my entire high school friend group right after we graduated. We weren't a huge group, just me, 3 other guys, and 1 girl named Sasha. Since there was an odd number of us, one person usually had to be on their own or sit next to a stranger during the rides. Nate and Alex were the clowns who always rushed to sit together first, and it was pretty obvious that Eric and Sasha were rapidly becoming a thing, so that left me to take one for the team. I didn't mind it though. It gave me the opportunity to sit with other cute girls myself. Unfortunately, on one ride, some creepy weirdo came into the picture. He approached us towards the end of the line and asked if he could ride with us. The guy looked like an incel and was easily 10 years older than us. Despite my hesitation, Nate and Alex's dumbasses welcomed him into our group, saying I finally had a ride buddy. It was obvious they were trying to poke fun at me, but I tried to not let it ruin my day. Now that everyone was paired up, nobody bothered talking to me in line anymore, leaving me alone with the weirdo. What made things awkward was how I had to casually break the silence and make small talk with the guy. He constantly had this weird look on his face and kept glancing over at Sasha even when I was talking right to him. I quickly realized he'd only joined our group because of her. The guy would whisper how hot she was, asking if she had a boyfriend, if she was 18 yet, all that kind of creepy shit.
So, that girl hanging with you guys, you think I got a chance?
No, that's Eric's girl.
What's her at? Or even better, her number? Come on, give it to me.
Why don't you go ask for it yourself? I'm sure her boyfriend would love that.
Oh, come on. I know that loser probably got friend zoned. You telling me you guys walk around with that piece of ass and none of you hit it?
Dude, back off. She's our friend.
Your friend with benefits, right?
Dude, what's wrong with you?
I don't mind being part of the train.
The disgusting comments were non-stop. I couldn't even get out of our conversation to tell everyone else just how much of a creep this guy was. He followed us around for a couple of rides. Then it eventually started to get dark, and I was worried he was going to try and leave the park with us. On one of the last rides we had left, there were 3 seats in each row. The creep sat in the cart to the left of Nate and Alex, and myself, Sasha, and Eric sat in the cart behind them. It was relieving to finally have some space away from that guy. As soon as the ride started and the roller coaster started climbing upwards, the guy turned his head exorcist style and stared at Sasha the entire time. He had a sickening grin on his face too. All my friends thought it was funny and laughed it off, even Sasha, but I was petrified. I thought he was going to get out of the restraint and climb over to get her. After that ride, I truly wanted nothing to do with this guy, but I knew we had about 2 rides left that we wanted to check out before leaving. The next one we went to had bathrooms right outside the entrance. Sasha said she needed to sit this one out and use the bathroom, encouraging us to go without her. By then, it was nighttime, and the park was closing soon, so the wait was very short. At the end of the line, there was a bit of confusion as to who was going to ride on their own, since we had an odd number again. But then the creep suddenly started clutching his stomach and ran off. He yelled something about how he needed to take a shit, so it worked out for the rest of us. That's when Eric asked me to sit next to him. I did. Then the ride started, but I couldn't enjoy it. I was suspicious about what that guy was really doing, and I wish I'd gone after him when I'd had the chance. When it was over, I quickly got out and hurried over to the bathroom. Everyone came after me, confused about what was going on with me. That is, until we heard screaming from the women's bathroom. We rushed inside and saw the creep on top of Sasha. He was holding her down with a knife at her throat. All four of us charged in and pulled him off her. We got him away from Sasha, but that freak was so fast with the knife. He stabbed and slashed all four of us. The bathroom was covered in blood by the time other people heard the screaming and started piling in. At the last second, the psycho split. He carved his way through the crowd and ran off. All of us were taken to hospital. Sasha was fine physically, but not mentally. The wounds that Nate, Alex, and I got weren't severe, but Eric got stabbed in the gut and had to have surgery. The monster who did this to us was eventually caught and arrested, thankfully, but he did permanent damage to our friend group. For anyone wondering, Eric and Sasha did end up getting together, but sadly, their relationship isn't very healthy. The only thing holding them together at this point is our shared trauma from that nightmare trip to Six Flags. This story was inspired by a disturbing Six Flags incident that happened on July the 8th, 1997. 4 young men were stabbed at a Six Flags park after coming to the aid of a female friend of theirs who had been physically harassed by another park-goer named Rashid Kareem Friday. When her 4 companions came to her defense, an altercation ensued, and Friday stabbed all 4 males. The 4 victims were taken to hospital, where one underwent abdominal surgery for his wound. The suspect was then taken into custody and charged accordingly.
I had a wife, kids, and a decent paying job. My wife was a nurse and worked nights, so I barely saw her. I'd get home from work around 6 p.m. and she'd leave at 7:30. Even though I didn't see much of her, we were still happy together. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. I've been secretly having an affair with my wife's cousin Lila. She started hanging around us to help with the kids, and after a while, I started to get close to her. Eventually, I couldn't control myself. She was younger, fitter, crazier, hotter, and she just happened to be around a lot more than my wife. She'd never had kids of her own, so being with her was like being a teenager again. She'd come over while my wife was working and the kids were asleep, and we'd sleep together. Being a part of the younger generation, Lila was a big fan of boba tea. She'd always come over with a drink for each of us, but before we even touched them, she'd rip my clothes off and we'd go at it. After one round, we'd recharge with the boba, then we'd go again. We would screw around like a rabbit all night, every night. Lila would even come visit me at work and bring me boba. That boba stuff was like her love language. The affair went on for years, and my wife never suspected a thing as far as I know. But I always wondered when everything would come crashing down on me. One night, while we were sitting in the late night cafe, having our second boba teas, Lila finally sprang the dreaded question on me.
Baby, don't you want to be with me permanently?
I mean, I would, but what about my wife?
God, I'm so sick of that bitch. Who does she think she is that she can keep getting in between us?
Lila, she's the mother of my children.
Then put a baby in me too.
Shut up. We can't talk like this. We have to stay a secret. Isn't it enough to ride me 4 times a day?
No, I want you 10 times, 20 times, more than the bobas in your bubble tea.
Hey, let go of me.
Never! I'll never let you go. Not until that bitch is gone. You belong to me now. I'm tired of being a side piece.
That's...
That's what? What do you have to say?
Hey, shopkeeper, can we use your bathroom?
That's what I thought.
I knew there was nothing I could do to satisfy Lila's obsession with me. I was all she ever thought or cared about, to the point that she despised my wife. Her own cousin. I was powerless to put a stop to our affair. As much as I refused to admit it, I was having the time of my life. That night, after we got banned from the boba shop for quote-unquote defiling their bathroom, as the owner put it, we did our usual routine. We defiled a cheap motel room, then we both went home separately. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about Lila. I wasn't sure if it was because of the freakout she had at the boba shop, but there was something about that encounter that gave me a sinking feeling in my stomach that I couldn't explain. When I woke up the next morning, my wife was already asleep in bed, and I knew she would be until she had to clock in for work. I had work myself, and felt too badly about the previous night to wake her up to say goodbye or, "I love you." I just let her sleep. At work, Lila came to visit as usual. After she rang me out in the supply closet, she left in a hurry. I wasn't sure why. She usually stuck around for a while, but I figured she had some errands to run. I didn't think anything about it. Then, I got a call that evening at 9 p.m. It was earth-shattering. My wife was dead. They said she had taken a drink that was gifted by some patients, then collapsed halfway through drinking it. Even though she was already in a hospital, they couldn't save her because she'd ingested a massive amount of poison. When they told me the type of drink she had was boba tea, I instantly knew who was responsible. Lila. I started to freak out. A million thoughts were running through my head in that moment. I had no time to process any amount of grief because the kids were already asleep, and Lila would be at my house in less than 2 hours. Panicking, I got in my car and drove to the nearest police station to tell them. I had an evil little voice in my head telling me to keep quiet and take the opportunity Lila was giving me to live my life with her permanently attached to me. A life of non-stop, unrestricted pleasure. But I had to think of my kids. I knew it would only be a matter of time before she saw them as obstacles and took them out too. With the information I gave to the police, Lila was arrested, yet it feels like far too late. I will live with this guilt forever. When my kids grow up to understand what I had to do with their mother's death, they'll never forgive me, and they never should. This story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a Thai Bin woman who was sentenced to death for taking out a nurse with cyanide-laced bubble tea meant for a colleague of the victim. Lai T. Kui Trang, 26, was charged with murder in the shocking incident that made headlines and garnered public attention for behavior the court described as cruel and vile. The victim, Nguyen Thi Han, 29, was a nurse at Thai Bin Lung Hospital. According to the indictment, the suspect Trang and the husband of her cousin, identified as Dam Ha Yen, had been involved in a love affair since January of 2019. Even after the man allegedly wanted to stop in October the same year, Trang subsequently outlined a plan to take out her cousin due to jealousy. That's when she ordered 1 liter of cyanide online. On December 2nd of 2019, she poured just enough cyanide into 4 of 6 cups of bubble tea. Trang had the tea delivered to the hospital where her cousin worked. Disguised as thank you gifts from patients, bubble tea is a popular drink in Vietnam, especially among the youth. Since the cousin was not present at the time, her colleague received the tea and put cups in a fridge. The next morning, one of the nurses named Han drank one of the 4 poison cups and passed away instantly. 2 of her colleagues followed suit, luckily choosing the unlaced cups. Trang was arrested on December 30th after police got an autopsy from the victim's remains.
I'm married with 2 kids, my son and daughter. We recently went to Six Flags and I brought my nephew with us. The boys are about the same age, so they get along well and have fun together anytime my brother drops him off with me. It was everyone's first time except for my nephew. My wife and I always get nauseous when we go on roller coasters, so we never went as a family. But my brother said his kid loved riding them, so we thought my son might too. We were told the very start of the summer is the best time to go, and that seemed to be the case. The weather was warm but not too hot. There was a decent amount of people without it being too crowded, and in general, the wait times weren't outrageous. We mostly let my nephew show our son the ropes, since we didn't know the first thing about which rides were worth it and which ones were a bust. Surprisingly, my son didn't seem to inherit the dizziness genes, as he was having a blast. My daughter was a little too young for it all, though, so my wife stayed with her and showed her the other stuff the park had to offer, while I followed the boys and made sure they got on and off the ride safely. Everything seemed to be going just fine, but I had one nagging feeling in the back of my mind. There was a particular ride the boys kept raving about. My nephew kept calling it the coolest thing in the world, saying my son had to prepare for it by riding everything else first, otherwise he wouldn't be able to handle it. The ride was called X2, and I could see it towering over everything from just about every spot in the park. Something about it just didn't sit right with me, though. Maybe it was too tall, or looked too complicated. But I knew those were all things that supposedly made it more attractive to people who liked roller coasters. I didn't want to deprive the kids of having a good time, so I made sure to ask my son if he really did want to go on that ride. But when he gave me a very enthusiastic yes, I didn't push it. Eventually, it came time for the boys to line up for X2. The wait for it was a lot longer than anything else so far, so I settled onto a bench near the ride where I'd be able to see where my boys were going. I think I watched it go by 100 times before they were finally up. By then, I'd gotten quite used to the sounds people made when they flew by, but when the boys were on it, something was different. I just remember hearing them screaming, but this time, I couldn't tell if they were enjoying it or not. They zipped by so fast, I couldn't get a look at them either. It was just a blur. Then, about a minute later, the two of them come walking out of the exit. I immediately saw that something was off about them this time. My nephew was more or less the same, just looking concerned. The reason for that was my son, who was stumbling around and red in the face. I figured his genetics had finally caught up with him, and he was about to get sick, so I ran over to help him. Once I got there, I started to realize things were much worse than I thought. Hey, kiddo, you were right. You look a little sick.
I'm fine. I just need to...
It's all right. Come here. If you need to throw up, that's okay. Just come over to the bushes here.
No,
It's okay, bud. Just let it out. You'll feel better after. It happened right before my eyes. He couldn't make it to the bushes. He opened up and vomited right there. But he was vomiting blood. It sprayed everywhere, all over us. Everyone around us started to panic and scream. It was like that scene from The Exorcist, but it was happening to my son. Before I knew it, he collapsed. I didn't know what else to do, so I picked him up and ran for help. I rushed him to the hospital, hoping they could find out whatever was wrong with him and save him. It was an absolute disaster, as I abandoned everyone to get him there as soon as possible. In the end, it was hopeless anyway. The doctors couldn't save my son. He died later that day. The coroner was able to confirm that his death was caused by a major brain bleed as a result of major head trauma. With that in mind, we can only draw one conclusion. My son hadn't been playing sports, roughhousing, or doing anything else where he could have hit his head that hard. He was perfectly healthy until he got on that damn roller coaster. Something happened to him on that ride. Something Six Flags should have prevented, but they didn't. And now my son is dead. We're suing Six Flags for wrongful death. We're gonna find out who is responsible, whether it was lazy operators, incompetent designers, untrained construction workers, or greedy, cost-cutting CEOs. Hell, every single one of them could be liable. I'll take them for every red cent they have, because no matter what they do, they can bring back my son. This story was inspired by a devastating incident regarding a perfectly healthy 22-year-old man who unfortunately passed from a brain bleed after riding a roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain called X2. According to a recent lawsuit filed by his family, Christopher Hawley visited the park in Los Angeles County on June 23rd of 2022 with his brother and cousin. All three rode the roller coaster together, which the lawsuit describes as extremely rough, and jerked its riders around like rag dolls. While getting off the ride, Hawley had to hold onto a handrail for support after stating that his head hurt, then collapsed and fell unconscious. He just looked very red, just very something wasn't right, and then he eventually just collapsed on his way off the ride, Hawley's brother said. His family said Hawley was taken to a Six Flags medical tent and then rushed to hospital. The next day, he passed. According to the coroner's report, Hawley passed from head and brain trauma, and a CT scan revealed he suffered a catastrophic right subdural hematoma, a type of brain bleed resulting from the roller coaster. Hawley's family said he was in perfect health and had no pre-existing conditions. They are now suing Six Flags for wrongful death, alleging design defect, failure to warn, and negligence. Six Flags Magic Mountain denied the claims in the lawsuit and have been contacted for further comment.
I've been a bank teller for years. For the most part, it's a pretty boring job. I just cash and deposit checks all day, occasionally having to deal with someone arguing at me about fees or interest rates. I never have to worry about people trying to physically fight with me though, thanks to the thick sheet of plexiglass between us. Not that it's typically much of a problem. And all the time I've worked at the bank, nothing major has ever happened. That is, until recently. It started out as a dreadfully average Wednesday. It was so slow that I was the only teller at the counter. I had just one person at my window, but she was the worst kind of customer to deal with at a bank. She was this ghastly old woman with a crooked hunchback. She could barely hear anything I said, and complained about every possible little thing, while taking ages to do anything herself. Then, as I sighed and looked over her shoulder in frustration, I saw a man enter the bank, wearing a hoodie and a brightly colored mask. I couldn't tell what was on the mask, but my heart immediately sank, as I knew it was not a good sign. I tried to stay calm as I kept my eye on him. To my surprise, he actually got in line behind the old lady. From there, I could tell that his mask was supposed to be Sonic the Hedgehog. I was vaguely aware that some Sonic fans can be a bit overzealous, so I was hoping he was just one of those maladjusted Sonic fanatics who didn't know when to put the cosplay away. He was either that or something much worse. Of course, the old woman had no idea that someone had gotten in line behind her, so she kept yammering on about something totally inconsequential. I continued to watch the masked man as she rambled, noticing that he was fidgeting constantly and tightly holding his arms inside his jacket. He was anxious about something, but I was just hoping it was his account balance. For her own safety, I tried to interrupt the old woman to tell her that she should get out of line and speak to a manager, but she just wouldn't shut up. She kept talking over me no matter how much I raised my voice. Despite my efforts, the woman remained completely oblivious. As I watched the man behind her grow more agitated by the second, I had my hand on the silent alarm just below the counter, ready to go, when the masked man suddenly lunged forward and threw the woman to the side. She collapsed to the floor like a rag doll and wailed in pain. But I couldn't help her. The man rushed up to the window and pulled out a hammer, then started demanding money. I had already pressed the alarm, so I decided to comply to keep things from getting worse until help arrived. I opened up the bank register and started pulling out stacks and bounds of bills worth thousands of dollars each. Before I knew it, the man struck the glass with a hammer and cracked it, screaming at me to hurry up. I told him I was going as fast as I could. Then moments later, I slid the first of the money under the window while my hands were exposed. The man noticed the rings on my fingers and grabbed my hands. He held on to them tightly while screaming in my face, saying,
"Give me those rings, now!"
Please, I'll give you anything else.
"Bitch, I'm Sonic! Those rings belong to me!"
You can have as much money as you want. I'm begging you, just let me keep them.
"If you don't give me those rings, I'm gonna cut your fingers off and take those as well! You got that?"
Somebody, please help me!
"I'm Sonic! No one's faster than me!" "You idiot! Now you're gonna pay!" "If you don't give me those rings, I'll smash this old hag's skull in!"
Please, just do what he says. He's going to kill me.
"Shut up, bitch!"
Okay, you can have them. Just don't hurt anyone.
Tears were streaming down my face as I took the rings off and slid them under the window. The man grabbed them and threw them in his bag, then didn't waste a second to start demanding more money. I cried as I handed over the rest of it, until his bag was full and he finally left. A few minutes later, the police arrived, but they were too late to catch the thief. The old woman was taken to the hospital and survived. As for the money, I loaded that asshole up with nothing but dye packs, so as soon as he was off the block, the packs exploded and stained all the money, making it worthless. Unfortunately, he still made off with my precious irreplaceable rings. He either kept them or sold them, but I'll probably never know. Since his face was concealed behind that mask of Sonic the Hedgehog, the police were never able to find them, so there's no real hope of tracking down my rings anymore. That day, I learned to never wear jewelry while working at the bank. It's a lesson I paid a heavy price for, and won't soon forget. Whenever I see anything related to Sonic the Hedgehog, I think about what I lost. The ring my loving fiancé gave me, and the family heirloom I let slip into the black market. This story was inspired by an incident regarding an armed suspect who police say tried to rob a credit union. Police responded to the scene at about 4:20 p.m. about the robbery, but the suspect was nowhere to be found. Police say the suspect was disguised in a Sonic the Hedgehog mask, like the classic Sega video game character. Witnesses told police the man wielded a hammer and demanded money from the teller. At one point, witnesses said the suspect struck the teller's window with the hammer. According to police, the suspect fled after he was confronted by one of the bank's employees. It's unclear whether he got away with any money. The suspect then headed toward the west side of the building and then north on Woodland. He was last seen wearing a black hoodie, black pants, and carried a black or gray backpack or duffel bag while sporting the blue hedgehog character mask. Law enforcement agencies joined on the search for the subject, to no avail. They now need the public's help identifying the masked robber. Police say if you know a video game fan who may have been involved in robbing the Florida Credit Union in DeLand, to contact them.